I'm going to respond to some of more of Lily J's claims about Jesus. Specifically, she says in her video, Jesus was a Muslim. I can prove it. She says, did you know that Jesus wasn't a Christian or a Jew? He was a Muslim, and I can prove it. Firstly, what does the word Muslim actually mean? Muslim is an Arabic word, and it directly translates to one that submits to God, submits, and guess what? Every single prophet in the Bible submits to God. So, first of all, we can see in the Quran that it says in Surah chapter 3, verse 45, it says, and mention when the angel said, O Mary, indeed Allah gives you good tidings of a word from him, whose name will be Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, distinguished in this world and the hereafter, and among those brought near to Allah. So here we can clearly see that the Quran affirms that Jesus will be the Messiah. But let's actually see where in the world we get the concept of Messiah from. We can start here in Genesis chapter 49, verse 10. It says, the scepter will not depart from Judah, or the staff from between his feet, until he whose right it is comes, and the obedience of the peoples belong to him. So here we can clearly see that Judah is a Jewish tribe in Israel, but we need to also look at the genealogy of Jesus to see actually where he comes from. We can see in Matthew chapter 1, it says, an account of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham fathered Isaac, Isaac fathered Jacob, Jacob fathered Judah and his brothers. So all these generations from Abraham to David were 14 generations, and from David until the exile to Babylon were 14 generations, and from the exile to Babylon until the Messiah, 14 generations. So we can clearly see that Jesus comes from the line of Judah. Therefore, he is a Jew. We can continue on and see as well some of her other claims. We can see, according to scholar Tripper Longman III, he says the English word Messiah derives from the Hebrew Mashiach through the Greek word Messias. John 141, 425. The Hebrew word is a noun, anointed one, formed from the verb Mashiach, to anoint. Now we can clearly see here the scholar says that it comes from a Hebrew word, which means that it's Jewish in nature, of course, because Hebrew was the language of the Jews. And I'm going to continue on and examine some more of her claims momentarily. She also says, on the last and final sermon before facing death, he prayed to God, saying, take my sacrifice, not as I will, but as you will. There's a couple of issues here. First of all, it wasn't a sermon, it was a prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane. We can see in Matthew chapter 26, verse 36, it says, then Jesus came with them to the place called Gethsemane, and he told the disciples, sit here while I go over there and pray. Taking along Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, he began to be sorrowful and troubled. He said to them, I am deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and stay awake with me. Going a little further, he fell face down and prayed, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. We can notice, first of all, that it says, Jesus says, my Father. Now, a Muslim cannot say my Father because there is no way in the Quran that Allah is ever identified as a father in any sense, and he's definitely not a father to the Muslims. As I've said before, in Surah chapter 19, verse 88 through 93, it says that, if you attribute a son to Allah, that the heavens and the earth tear apart, and that it is an atrocious thing to attribute a son to Allah. And also it says in verse 93 that nobody comes to Allah except as a slave. So once again, Lily J doesn't want you to actually read the Bible for yourself. She wants you to stay ignorant of what it actually says, because honestly I'm convinced she's not actually read the Bible for herself either. If she had, she wouldn't make such foolish claims. But she also, I want to go on and look at another claim she's made as well. She also says, on top of all that, not once is the word Jew ever mentioned in the Old Testament, and not once is Christian ever mentioned in the whole Bible. Now, let's look at this. We can see in 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 6, it says, at that time, Aram's king Rezin recovered Elath for Aram and expelled the Judaites from Elath. Then the Armenians came to Elath, and they stayed. They still live there today. So we can, first of all, we can see that the word Judaites comes from, it is the southern kingdom of Israel, and it also identifies the Judaites as male people. So we can clearly see here that the word Jew is used because we have the word Judaites, which is the part of the southern kingdom of Israel whenever it broke up under the reign of King Solomon's son. So we can clearly see here that the word Jew is used, perhaps not in the way that she wants, but it is referenced with regards to the southern kingdom of Israel. Now, with regards to the word Christian, it is indeed used in the Bible. We can see, first of all, in Acts 11:26, it says, "And when he found him, he brought him to Antioch for a whole year. They met with the church and taught large numbers." The disciples were first called Christians at Antioch. Additionally, we can see in the first letter of Peter, chapter 4, verse 16, it says, "But if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in having that name." So we can clearly see that the New Testament does affirm that Christians are used as a title. So once again, do not allow Lily J to think for you, because obviously she's not actually read the Bible and she wants to keep you ignorant of what it says. So once again, do not outsource your thinking to Lily J, because when you do that, you're going to be led astray. Thank you for your time.